What if this year is different for you? What if this truly ends up being your best year yet? Now, I know you've said it before, and I know if you're like 80% of people, you've ended up disappointed because so many people don't achieve their goals. What if it starts with, first of all, addressing the beliefs that are holding you back, the ways that you need to think in order to have a quantum leap? And then from that place of being a powerful being, then taking aligned action. I'm going to be sharing with you in this free, yes, absolutely free, no strings attached masterclass, the steps that I took, the things that I learned that helped me quantum leap into my next level. And they're the things that I know will help you make this your most extraordinary year yet. I hope you'll join me. You can be worthy, even if you have done wrong. That worthiness isn't about who you are, what you've done, the wrong, the right. Worthiness is a choice. Worthiness is a decision. My father decided that even though he was in prison, even though he was serving a sentence, that he could still be worthy, that he could still be worthy to use his gifts to share, use his gifts to inspire others to find their path, to step into their greatness. If you've ever struggled with feeling worthy of doing anything, worthy of having anything, this episode is for you. It is a deeply personal episode, but one that I really feel prompted to share because so many of us struggle with worthiness. And I particularly wanted to share something that happened recently for me. So if you've ever thought to yourself, I don't deserve something or I'm not worthy, this is for you. Before we get started, I want to remind you that I would be so grateful if you could subscribe to this podcast, if you could share it as well. It truly means the world to me. It means that more people will get to hear this message. And of course, I would also love to hear from you. Whatever resonates with you in this episode today, I'd love for you to tag me on social media. My handle is at sandra.chuma, or of course you can tag me at iamworthy.co. And I always love to hear from you. You can send me email at hello@iamworthy.com. And so I wanted to share something that happened for me recently, something that actually had me shook to my core, something that made me question whether to even continue with this platform, especially a platform that is called Worthy. Someone wrote me an email recently. It's someone I love. It's somebody dear to me. It's someone I love, I respect. And they were talking about a wrong that they felt I did them a long time ago. It's more than a decade ago. And in that email, they effectively were questioning my ability to lead a platform that is called Worthy in light of, in their eyes, things that I've done wrong in the past. Now, it's neither here nor there. It's not important to the story what the thing is. And I also have to protect other people who are involved in the story. But suffice to say, this person felt that I wronged them. And they were questioning, as I said, whether I should be putting myself out there and talking about worthiness. Who was I to have a platform talking about worthiness? And I'll be honest that when I got the email, it shook me and I cried. I was upset for a couple of days. I really was upset. And it also led me to question myself, to really question, to say, I'm not perfect. And I've never put myself out as being perfect. I've made many mistakes. I've hurt many people in my lifetime. And that made me question, with that said, with not being perfect, with not having everything all together, was I worthy of leading a platform that is called Worthy? One of the things that I've been trying to do, I don't always succeed, but one of the things that I've been trying to do is when hard things come at me, is asking myself, what is the lesson? What is the lesson here for me to learn? And what is the gift? And I'll be honest, there are many things that have happened where I really just want it to pass. I don't really care about the lesson and I'm not really looking for the gift. I cannot see the gift. But I really sat with this one and I asked myself, what is the lesson here for me to learn? And what is the gift? And I want to share a story with you, which was part of my realization of where I ended up. And I'll tell you where I ended up after much reflection. Something I've never publicly shared, but those of you who are close to me know this, and I've shared it in some of my programs, but I've never publicly shared this, is that my father who I adored, my father who some of you may know passed away about 3 years ago. My father was a convicted felon. My father served 10 years in prison, in a maximum security prison, for embezzling money from his employer. And embezzling is really a fancy word for he stole money from his employer and was sentenced to, I can't remember exactly what the length of the sentence was, but what he actually ended up serving was 10 years in prison. And it's something that I never shared publicly. And there are many people who probably would consider themselves good friends of mine who wouldn't even know that about me because it's not something that I talked about. And part of why I never talked about it was I was ashamed. I was ashamed of the stigma. I was ashamed of what would I say. I was ashamed of what did it reflect about me. But here's an interesting thing that happened for my father. My father, before he went to prison, and many years when he was younger, he had served as a minister. He was an ordained minister in the church. And when he went to prison, I think after the initial years of adjusting to prison life, he found his purpose. He found his purpose in that prison and became a prison chaplain of sorts. And so he started up a ministry in prison for other prisoners. And every Sunday, he ran the Sunday service for his fellow prisoners. And one of the things that always struck me about that, and it was something that he was so incredibly proud of, was the fact that you can be a sinner, you can have done wrong, and you can also be an inspiration. You can be both. That life is not always an either or. That life is and. There's duality in life. So here we had my father who was serving a prison sentence, but he ended up being a chaplain, a mentor, a minister to many of the prisoners that he was serving with. He who was a convicted felon. The fact that he was a convicted felon didn't preclude him from using his gifts and using his life to be an inspiration to others. And one of my father's favorite Bible verses is Romans 3, verse 23 to 24, I believe it is, and I stand to be corrected. But it's the verse in the Bible that talks about the fact that for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and that is only through God's grace that we are redeemed. And that verse and that thought of my father came to me as I was reflecting on this situation. The fact that because I'm human, because of my humanity, because of my failings, that is exactly what makes me worthy to share the lessons that I'm learning, worthy to share and to inspire others to step into their greatness. And I really felt like I was at a crossroads. You know, as I said, I really thought about, should I continue? Should I not continue? I was in the middle of creating a program that will be launching soon. And it really made me question, well, who am I? Who am I who's, who's failed, who's hurt people, who's done wrong? Who am I to put myself out there and share information and inspire and tell people that they can step into their extraordinary life? And remembering my father and remembering his story and how he chose to use his life as an inspiration, as a source of comfort for his fellow prisoners was my reminder that you can be worthy, even if you have done wrong. That worthiness isn't about who you are, what you've done, the wrong, the right. Worthiness is a choice. Worthiness is a decision. My father decided that even though he was in prison, even though he was serving a sentence, that he could still be worthy, that he could still be worthy to use his gifts to share, use his gifts to inspire others to find their path, to step into their greatness. And so that was my stark reminder that it's not about worthiness doesn't come from being righteous. It doesn't come from being perfect. It doesn't come from never making mistakes, never hurting other people. Worthiness is a decision. You decide that you're worthy. And I think that the greatest, actually, if anything, the greatest thing that you can think of when it comes to your worthiness is who you're choosing to become. That for all of us, as I said, all of us have fallen short. And I hope that we don't judge each other in this cancel culture world, that we stop judging each other based on our mistakes, based on the errors of our ways, based on the decisions that we make that may hurt other people, and instead choose to focus on who is someone becoming. I often share in my programs that one of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou. And she said, "When I knew better, I did better." And I always share in my programs that I love that quote, but with respect to Miss Maya Angelou, I'd like to change that quote to say, "When I knew different, I did different." Because when we can give ourselves and give each other the grace of knowing that we all are doing the best that we can with what we have, with who we are in that moment. There's so many things that all of us have suffered, so many things that we've experienced, so many beliefs that have been given to us, so many mistakes that we've made. But ultimately, it's about who are you choosing to become? What's the choice that you make about who you want to be? Not who you used to be, but who do you want to be in this moment? Who are you aspiring to be? If your aspiration is to do better and to be better, that makes you worthy. Worthy to be, to do, to have anything that your heart desires. Anything that your heart desires. And that includes leading a platform that is called Worthy. I truly believe that, if anything, the gift that I received in that email, which really shook me to my core, the gift that I received from that was a reminder. It was a reminder that my work is not about sharing when I'm perfect. My work is not about sharing when everything is perfectly aligned. My work is reminding us all that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to be anything other than who you choose to be worthy of an extraordinary life. I truly hope that wherever it is that you are, whatever it is that you've done in the past, that you can consider it the past. A wonderful mentor of mine, a spiritual mentor, shared something with me a while ago when I was asking him, how do I let go of the past? How do I let go of the mistakes that I've made in the past? And he gave me a great analogy that I share with you. He said that life is like a backpack. And as we go through life, we put things inside that backpack. And sometimes the things that we put in that backpack are rocks. They're the things that are heavy, the mistakes that we make, the hurt that we cause, the things we wish we'd done differently. But he said that at the end of every day, you can choose to take that backpack off your back and empty it out. And the only judgment there is of who you choose to be in the next moment. And he reminded me that when you're carrying heaviness, when you have this backpack that is heavy, you cannot soar. You cannot fly. And so I want to remind you that worthiness is a choice, worthiness is a decision, and that the things of the past are the things of the past, that the only place, as he reminded me, the only place that the past exists is in your mind. And the way that you show that you are truly sorry, that you atone for the things that you've done or didn't do in the past, is by choosing today to do better and to be better. And that alone is enough, because you are worthy. You are worthy to be, you are worthy to do, and you are worthy to have an extraordinary life. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of the Worthy Podcast. Please join me again soon.